Rachel Maddow Show, weeknights at 9 Eastern on MSNBC.
I'm Rachel Maddow. We got a great show for you tonight, a lot to cover about the Mueller investigation. But first, I want to take you back to the late 18th century, to the Ohio River Valley. Ohio, coming from the Seneca Ohio, meaning good river. And if you were a settler there at about that time, you'd have agreed it lived up to its reputation. In 1781, Thomas Jefferson called the Ohio River the most beautiful river on earth. It was the primary waterway by which English settlers reached what would become the heartland of America. In no time at all, it became one of the major centers for commerce in young America. Settlers poured down its tributaries towards a better life in unexplored America. It was opportunity, it was manifest destiny. And for a young physician named Nathan Barnabas Culver, it was his big break. Dr. Culver was a physician of some renown in Cornwall, but his hybrid medicinal/spiritual remedies, think laudanum porridge, cocaine meat pies, ran him afoul of the religious authorities. And like so many at that time, he made the difficult passage to America, animated by the belief that there he would find the religious freedom and economic opportunity that we cherish to this day. After the Treaty of Paris ceded most of the valley, the Ohio River Valley, to the United States, Dr. Culver was one of the first homesteaders of southwestern Ohio, where he founded the town of Hope, seen here. As you can see, it's a real general store and blacksmith ordeal that nevertheless, it continued on with some prosperity for a time until a raid of indigenous peoples killed Dr. Culver, allegedly for the attempted overprescription of hysteria treatments. He was survived by his wife, Elizabeth, and his daughter, Deborah Culver, here, who suddenly found themselves alone on the frontier, a semi-hostile world in which their limited skills provided little balm. But remember, these were frontierswomen, not like you and I. They're made from sturdier stuff. And they didn't take their ball and go home. Instead, they did what Americans do, and they became entrepreneurs. They realized that at a certain point, Dr. Culver's patients had been coming as much to taste the sweet baked goods in the waiting room as for Dr. Culver's laudanum treatments. Honestly, those two probably complement each other, but anyway. Elizabeth Culver's cakes, sweetbreads, and pastries remained popular even after the doctor's death. And that's how, right there in Hope, Ohio, a fixture of Americana was born. The Little Debbie Frontier Pastry and Snack Company was founded in 1795 by Elizabeth Culver, named after her daughter, Debbie, and you know their work to this day. Swiss rolls, fudge rounds, the oatmeal cream pie, the cream-filled cupcakes that are now iconic and omnipresent, that was Elizabeth and Debbie. And these two women, they did it alone. They are responsible for this great American success story. But are they also responsible for Brett at Relentless Boredom being so fat now?
Oh my God. Did I just have to sit through a terrible Rachel Maddow impression for 4 minutes
expert
for a
Brad
fucking fat joke?
Thank you, Rachel, for having me on.
Oh my God. And it's at Relentless
always
Bored.
a delight. And from the Foundation for Foreign Affairs and Emergent Technologies, we have John at Cali.
You got both of them. Is this going to keep going?
Thank you, Rachel. Pleasure to be here.
Oh my God.
Good to see you again. Now,
I'm
Brad,
glad everybody's in on this. Awesome.
How does something like this happen? Is it the stereotype that we all think of cheeseburgers and bacon? Or is it the fudge rounds and the cupcakes doing most of the, no pun intended, heavy lifting?
Well, thank you. That's a fantastic question. In healthcare, we like to attribute
this is a full-on thing. We're going to keep going.
Monofactorial causes, right? So we have genetics, we have nature, nurture, the environments. We have something that he can't fight. We have stress, or in Brett's case, we have an unholy combination of literally every factor possible, which has clearly manifested itself into what we see here in front of us, with a presentation so severe it might be comforting to think there's only one problem, but in reality, there are just several.
I'm 6'3".
I'm sorry if I'm hearing you right. So what you're saying is there's no one thing that could make someone as fat as Brett is today.
196 and 6'3".
I mean, it is possible that he could be so committed to obesity that he could take one path, but it strikes me as unlikely that someone with that amount of willpower wouldn't spend it towards doing literally anything else except for getting fat. So yes, I would have to say that there is no one thing that could do this.
So John, I want to bring you in now. Now, John, when you see someone like Rob at Dumb and Awful, 6'7", body comp of Kevin Durant, skinny legend.
In your dreams.
And then you find out Brett is 7 inches shorter and now the exact same weight.
4 inches
How do those
shorter.
numbers hold up internationally? How would Brett stack up against his fellow global citizens?
4 inches and still 6 pounds
Oh, yes.
lighter.
Brett now resembles the famed Buddha or Happy Buddha, a monk in simple robes who would often pat his belly while laughing and surrounded by young children. That is what we're looking at here.
Now, John, it sounds like what you're saying is that it might not be a bad thing. And I know a lot of cultures actually value, the amount of fatness that Brett currently has. I'm thinking of Peter Paul Rubens, for example. Does that hold up?
How long
Oh,
has
yes.
it been?
There's been numerous reports to the International Whaling Commission that there's a significant interest in pursuing Brett at this time. He has also been offered refuge in the Australian whale sanctuary. This is located outside Japan's exclusionary economic zone.
Blubber gets a bad rap, but I'm glad that Brett is changing the dialogue there. Brad, I want to get you back in, though. We know that Brett is an Appalachian American. To this day, his family still lives in what we call the Little Debbie states. How much of this is nurture and how much is his nature? Is this a genetic inevitability he's dealing with?
That's a fantastic question. I have a lot of medical experience in Appalachian medical communities. We call these underserved communities. And I think what you have to realize is with Brett, generally, this is not a unique condition. What we're seeing here is very typical for these Little Debbie states. These are high cholesterol, high lipid, high blood sugar. When he talks, you can hear the low density, the LDA rattling
absolutely
around
can.
in his saliva. It's phenomenal. What is remarkable about this case in particular is the sheer, God, I just want to say dedication to how he's gotten here.
It takes work.
Not as dedicated as you are to
it
this
does,
joke.
and in a kind of way that's commendable. It's respectable. If you're going to do something, fucking do it. But on the other, excuse me, I apologize. I didn't mean to swear on your show, Rachel.
That's okay. It's an important topic. I understand if you get emotional.
Guys.
I thank you. I appreciate it. But in other hands, he's sort of built himself a log cabin made out of oatmeal cream cookies, and he's eating himself out from the inside. So,
admittedly, that does sound delicious, but still, fuck you.
You know what? I'm just glad Brett has found a home in glucose. But John, you know what we don't talk about enough in this country? It's mental health. And for years, Rob at Dumb and Awful, he was the fat friend between him and Brett. And suddenly,
I never said that.
Everything is different. They're the same weight, and Rob's so much taller. How's that likely to be affecting Brett mentally?
We are not the same weight.
Yes,
I'm still lighter.
This normally will probably involve leading him to isolate himself more, probably binging more British baking shows on Netflix and the like. But there is a growing concern that with the upcoming Brexit that this may affect the availability.
Oh, I never thought of that.
Now, let me ask you, when he's binging these shows, is that because he's falling into a pit of despair, or does he just not know how fat he's getting?
Wait, is Great British Bake Off really in danger?
I think it's a combination of the two, but as always, it depends entirely on the day and mood and just which Cupcake Wars seasons are available at the time.
I don't like Cupcake Wars.
I think that makes sense. Brad, in terms of athletic performance, we know Brett's a militant socialist who believes the current government should be replaced somehow, the whole Gumby leftism thing, with a legitimate socialist one. As he gets more and more fat, is there some concern that the pungent sweat and heavy breathing might give him away when him and his comrades are engaging in some sort of subversive direct action?
How long is
Well,
this?
I think that's a good question. I think that's the wrong way to look at it. So think of this more of like a direct confrontation. In that situation, it would be incredibly beneficial to have a giant bullet shield at the front of the lines marching into the police columns to suck up a lot of those rubber bullets for the other people who are in shape, so they don't, tire themselves out dodging rounds.
This is a 10-minute round.
Well, it's good to see that his patriotism will remain presentable. John, how much of this is just the American 24-hour media needing a story? Is Brett really fat, or are we talking smoke and no fire here?
Well, I mean, of course, Americans have a significantly larger version of fat than in the international community. God. And if you look at that reporting from Al Jazeera to BBC to Xinhua to even Sputnik, there is international consensus on Brett's obesity here.
Well, it's nice in the year of our Lord 2019 to have a consensus on something. That thing, again, and I can't emphasize this enough, Brett being fat and the fat friend. Last question, Brad. Brett is getting older.
Well, Rachel, as we all are.
Oh, very true, very true. Now, how much of Brett being a fat little Debbie addicted slob is just the natural process of aging?
Oh, fuck you.
Well, as we age, our taste buds change, and we're unable to detect subtle tastes as well as we used to. You'll see this in the elderly eating tons of fast food because of the sodium content or hanging out with donuts or something like that. With Brett's case, though, I think we have to take into consideration that you know, think of his hair, for example. It's thick and luscious, while the rest of him is literally rotting.
Okay.
This is because the sweat and the pure cholesterol that are just dripping out of his pores are really lubricating and giving it that nice sheen and shine. So it's a little bad, but it's a little good.
Oh my God, how much more is there?
You know, I don't want to start a debate because we're running out of time, but I would say while his hair is thick and luscious, at this point, so is the rest of his body. So it's all looking up for Brett. Thank you, gentlemen, for taking the time.
Oh my God, finally.
Thank you, Rachel.
Always a pleasure.
And to Dumb and Awful.
You set up a fucking 12-minute spiel because you're skinny now, you bitch.
Yeah, you know how you could avoid that? Lose some weight, bitch.